Okay, hello guys. Today I will rank in a tier list. I made a list of philosophers who I mock objectively or not, who mock me. And so to explain to first, let's talk about basics. What does mogging mean? So it comes from a philosophy of lux maxing, which presents itself in a way that looks are everything, if you wish. And so mogging someone is intentionally or not intentionally positioning yourself better than the other person. By looks, I mean. So for example, I can IQ mock someone, or I don't know, frame mock someone. Like if you wish, there is this phrase going on from recent news that Clavicular got brutally frame mocked by an ASU threat leader while he was just maxing. To some, it may mean nothing, but for me, it means that some guy whose name is an ASU threat leader got a frame wider than the other person, so clavicular in this case. Or also, this is intentional mogging, alright? This was on a live stream. This is another case. I'm gonna precise another example of unintentional mogging. For example, there is a lot of photos of Sydney Sweeney. I think everyone knows who she is, with other women of other races sometimes. And from them, in comments, people say like, that's just brutal. But there she kind of does this unintentionally, like she's just like that, you know. Anyways, I've explained my case. Either way, just to be clear, I do not really support and I'm not really into this whole looks maxing thing, but for this video I'm gonna put myself in the shoes of such looks maxer, even though this philosophy doesn't really emanate with my principles nor uh, life ideas, if you wish, principles. Anyways, so to start, there is Albert Camus. He's a very basic guy, uh, very easy to explain his philosophy. Basically, if you wish, I got two books of his. Le Mythe de Sisyphe, Myths of Sisyphus, a really nice essay. I really recommend if you just started going into philosophy. Really nice. And then there is L'étranger, so a stranger, a sort. So basically, if you wish, his philosophy consists of trying to explain kind of a condition of a modern human, of a modern man even. So you know, as we all know it, kind of in our modern society, there is no much reliability on religion nor on sciences. And so in this kind of world, a modern man has, well, if you wish, lost all his meaning. Like for him, life has lost all his meaning. And so what to such existential crisis Camus proposes, offers, is that we should enjoy suffering. So in his the last words of his essay of Myths of Sisyphus is that we must imagine Sisyphus being happy, on the contradictory of this, myth that Sisyphus must be suffering, but he also must be happy, which is I find really interesting. Plus, it is important to note that he was very well known amongst girls. Even though he was smoking, he was a chat, guys. He was a chat. I ain't gonna lie. Ayn Rand, brutal. I just brutally mock her. Arthur Schopenhauer, I really don't like Arthur Schopenhauer. He was a sad, depressed fuck in his time. He, well, I really haven't got much to say. He was just a depressed fuck. He was a fucking loser. He didn't offer almost nothing to modern philosophy. I don't give a fuck what other people say to me. Just, I brutally mock him, even though more than Ayn Rand. David Hume, a very interesting philosopher. He was the guy who kind of introduced this concept of, I'm gonna tell you what he. So basically, he was, I think, one of the first people to be an empiricist, which basically means that he relies and he says that all human knowledge relies on experience and comes from experience, which is a very interesting thought, considering that he was living in 1600s, if I'm not mistaken. So this is interesting, even though I easily mock him. I really easily mock him. Look, guys, look at him. He's a fat fuck. There is Friedrich Nietzsche then. I fucking hate Nietzsche. I think Nietzsche is one of the only philosophers who I truly truly hate. Like, he not only did he made our humans worse, our modern society worse, I think, because there is, first of all, he's the most popular philosopher of all time. I think if you ask people, do they know Nietzsche, they're probably gonna tell you, oh yeah, Nietzsche, ah, yeah, I know Nietzsche, oh, blah, blah, blah. I fucking hate Nietzsche. I really don't like him. He said to us, God is dead. Sure, okay. Maybe he was trying to rationalize the fact that society comes more and more away from God. Sure, okay, you could maybe try to speculate on such matter. He was an absolute loser in life. There's this. Um, what did he offer to us in a place instead of God? I think nothing. You could say that he offered to us this concept of Übermensch, a if you wish above human, basically above man. But well, it doesn't really work. Look, some people think that you can become an Übermensch. No, Nietzsche never talked about concerning this. Just false. People interpret him very badly. I really don't like Nietzsche. I brutally mock him. He was a fucking pathetic loser. It is important to know also that he died in a psych ward. So that tells us a lot. Then next there is Anna Arendt. Uh, Even though she's a woman, I don't really mock her that as easily as Ayn Rand, if you wish, because Anna Arendt, well, she rationalized the fact, for example, that after World War II, there was a lot of generals that told us we just obeyed orders, which is true in itself. And so she talked about these natures of evil and how evil can come even from ordinary people, which is I find it interesting. Like it's actually interesting. Actually interesting. Jean-Paul Sartre. I don't think I even need to explain myself here. I brutally mock him, just absolutely brutal. Not even a question. Um, just absolutely pathetic guy, plus a communist, plus really stupid. Didn't bring much to philosophy, just stole a lot of stuff from Kierkegaard, and that's kind of it. Karl Marx goes the same. He just stupid as fuck. Didn't invent shit. Okay, he did invent shit, but he wasn't as smart as people talked about him. Simone de Beauvoir goes the same. I'm gonna put her next to her husband. Just feminist. What can I say more? Next comes Socrates. Has Socrates tried to suck on these nuts? Anyways, he was an OG rage baiter, which is, well, which is interesting. Look, for example, let's imagine me and him. I was in ancient Greece, so this fanboy in ancient Greece, he was kind of muscle too, but anyways, he's like, people bragged him to be the amoglobist of all chads, alright? And so then Socrates hears this, and he comes to me, and he says, if being an unmoggable chad is your power, what would you be without it? And to that, first I tried to punch him in the head, which I probably couldn't succeed because still he was kind of a sporty guy. But then I'd say to him, Socrates, please stop rage baiting me. You're pissing me off. Which is absolutely true. He's fucking pissing me off, guys. Still, people talked a lot about him as of a guy who, well, first of all, look at the fuck he's had. He's ugly. Let's say NTL, tinted tills, whatever. Not even hunter eyes. Yeah, so he was ugly. Still, he was sporty, but like most people in ancient Greece. So that's kind of a point. Probably he would win. Probably he would win in a wrestling match against me. But still, even Plato, he's the most important student, if you wish, from whom we saved a lot of dialogues of Socrates. Still, even he in Banquet talked about Socrates like a man who rarely shout. So Socrates, touch some grass. Easily. I think semi-moggable, let's say it like that. Okay, then next comes Henry Bergson. From his name, we can conclude that he is of other race than me, which is, concerning looks maxim, is a minus, so I mock him just because of that, probably. Depends, but yeah. So then, I don't really know his philosophy, unfortunately, but just based on looks, I'd say he's easily mockable by me. I hair mock him. Excuse me. Next comes Blaise Pascal. I fucking love Blaise Pascal. Really base guy, extremely religious, even at some point of his life after he invented a lot of stuff in mathematics. He invented a lot of technologies back in the day, like the first calculators and stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Still, after that, he he went to a monastery and he said that he regrets doing sciences instead of philosophy, instead of being a religious guy, which I kind of respect. The most known thing concerning his philosophy is his gamble. So Pascal's gamble, if I'm not mistaken of the term. Maybe I'm gonna, uh, yeah, maybe I'm gonna edit this after. But anyways, so in this gamble, Pascal says that on one hand, you can not believe in God, and but therefore you after in your afterlife probably you will not be granted an eternal life after, which is a bit sad. So on the other hand, you have you can believe in God, you can believe in religion and such, and then because of that, thanks to that, you will be granted an eternal life in heaven. But the very easy critique to this, even though I very like Blaise Pascal, the very easy critique is that imagine if after you die, your soul goes to afterlife, let's say it like that, and then you see Buddha or some, or no, even Odin. Odin, man, that would be funny as fuck. Anyways, let's say he's semi-moggable, even though I really like him. But look at his head. Next comes Rene Descartes. It's gonna be really objectively really difficult to mock Rene Descartes because his influence, just basically his influence on our Western world is basically undeniable. So, for example, first of all, his inventions in sciences. He's the guy who invented in geometry this basically the plan that we orient in uh, Cartesian plan, if you wish. It is so it has facilitated so much geometry that is crazy. I respect it. I respect the shit out of that. It's genius if you ask me. But then, of course, his philosophy. I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum. Uh, but it is important to explain why, how he argumentates this shit. So it's a very interesting thought. He told us that basically I'm gonna be really reductionist concerning this part, but you can doubt everything you can see around you, uh, except your own consciousness. And so this is why, well, I don't know. For example, you cannot really prove that this phone or this my journal exists really before me, because well in front of me or whatever. Because in a way, look, what he says that you cannot really trust your senses, and I think he's the first guy to say that. But even though I really like his philosophy, uh, and even though he believes in God and he even tried to prove God by saying that something, well, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's like a cosmological argument or whatever, teleological maybe, I'm not sure. He said that basically the fact that we have consciousness means that something granted it to us, and so therefore because we can think about something like really way more ideal than us, I mean perfect, means this something perfect gave it to us so we can think about it, and it's kind of recursive. But still there could be some critics to it, like for example not really, well it's like what is the first cause, but anyways it's gonna be, I think I can talk about it in way more details, but in another video, and I can be more nerdy in other videos. But anyways, so Descartes is really based. But unfortunately, what I was trying to say is that he introduced, if you wish, atheism to Western cultures, which I really don't like, and I think it was a mistake. But this is a topic for another video. Anyways, so I say he's hardly moggable, because even though sometimes in some points I really don't like him, it is undeniable to say it that this guy had some influence. Next comes the founder. The founder, I'm not really sure if he is the founder, but anyways, the founder of classical logic, Aristotle. Aristotle himself, the man himself, the god himself. Uh, Basically, what he says in the classical logic. So it is basically a principle that one thing cannot be the other. For example, man cannot be a woman, which is really interesting if you think about it. But yeah, it has some critics, but that's why I'm gonna put Hegel right after Aristotle. So I'm kind of gonna oppose them. So Aristotle says, for example, uh, he makes the syllogisms, which is a kind of a set of affirmations, and from which we can derive a conclusion. But I'm gonna explain what I'm talking about. For example, in Aristotle's classical logic, there is a very famous three affirmations, well, two affirmations and one conclusion, one very famous syllogism that kind of everyone gonna talk you are going to talk to you about when you're gonna study philosophy in the like first year, whatever. This syllogism consists of saying, first affirmation, every man is mortal. Second affirmation, Socrates is a man. So conclusion, Socrates is mortal. Pretty basic, huh? I think it's genius, but it's basic. It's really interesting. So, but of course, from this can also be a source of logical fallacies. Sophists, for example, could say to you, first affirmation, every lawyer lies. Okay, maybe from first affirmation there's already some problem. Okay, second affirmation, my friend is a lawyer. Okay, so third conclusion, therefore he lies. I mean, like, you look, if you look at on logical structure, it kind of makes sense. Like every variable makes sense, kind of it can exist in its own way, but then just conclusion is wrong. Or for example, there is the other one. Yeah, so every rare thing is expensive. First affirmation. Second, a cheap horse is rare. So conclusion, a cheap horse is expensive. So that is that. But still, I really like Aristotle. Very nice guy. I think almost unmoggable, really unmoggable, I'd say. So from after that comes Hegel. That's why I put him right after Aristotle, because Hegel, he himself introduced something that we still use in modern philosophy, especially well, yeah, in modern philosophy, which is a dialectic logic, and it consists of something very interesting too. It consists more than just three syllogisms. It consists of saying a thesis, but then there is antithesis, which can be put into a synthesis. And it is very interesting because I'm going to explain the principle to you. For example, from my life, a thesis. When I was little, uh, I really believed everything my parents would say to me. But then, antithesis, uh, throughout my life, when I was more a teenager, there was this teenage maximalism, if you wish, in me that told me that everything my parents told me was wrong, which was, you know, I think everyone has this phase kind of. So from this, throughout my life, then after this, came a synthesis where I understood that some things my parents say to me aren't true, but some are not even false. Some are very much based. So, very simple example, which I really like, and I think a dialectical logic is really nice and it's really helpful. So I'd say he's hardly moggable. Voilà, hardly moggable. After this, after Hegel comes Diogenes. Diogenes was based. Okay, I'd say not extremely based, but he was based. Okay, I gotta admit that. After some point of his life, I think because I don't know, his parents died or something. After some very sad thing, he decided that he would reject all materialistic things. It's kind of cynicism, but still all materialistic things, and he would live in a jar without with a sort of asceticism in his life, you know, asceticism maybe in English. I'm not sure of the pronunciation, anyways. And so basically, it is impressive, I'd say, because the guy had some. He had some balls. He had some balls. Let's admit this. Diogenes, uh, first of all, um, he was kind of a extreme townsfoldsman, because you know we can compare him to Socrates. Like people were saying that, well, Socrates, he's kind of a townsfoldsman, you know, like fouge village in French. Um, so Diogenes was Socrates but on steroids concerning this. For example, he would walk with a lantern uh, in a day, you know, like it would be like, I don't know, 12 a.m. and he would light up this lantern, and people would ask him like, Diogenes, what the fuck are you with the lantern? And so he would say, I'm searching for a real man. Okay, Diogenes, nice, nice, very nice. Uh, Beside that, he was publicly masturbating too, walking nudely too, and above all, a very famous history concerning him uh, is about like after Alexander the Great, you know, this historical figure. He conquered Europe, the continent almost, like back in the day. And so he heard about Diogenes, like he was kind of a wise man, and so he decided to come to Diogenes for some kind of advice. And so he comes there in Athens or whatever. I don't, maybe in Athens, maybe somewhere else he was living. But anyways, so he comes to Diogenes and he asks him, so Diogenes, tell me, what is your wisdom? Tell me how to live and such. And what Diogenes told him, man, get the fuck away from here. You're blocking the sun. He had some balls. He had some fucking balls, guys. I don't think any or almost any of modern men would have the courage to say something like that to such a historical figure. Imagine if Hitler. I'm not gonna continue the phrase, but
what am I gonna do? I'm Hitler's top guy. What am I gonna do? Adolf Hitler chose me to lead the revolution.
the sentence, but you understand me. So Diogenes is unmoggable. He was the OG troller. He was the OG. Respect, man, respect. So after that, if I'm not mistaken, comes Epicurus. Epicurus was a based guy. I ain't gonna lie. So what his philosophy consisted about is that he would basically try to find a means to happiness. So, for example, he would basically devise everything in life that a man needs into two categories. So, natural needs, for example, pissing, drinking, and eating, and shitting, if you wish, of sorts. And then desires. So, desires would be like, I don't know, lustful desires like for power. Not even, you know, lust in a sense like this. For power too, it exists. And so he would tell that desires are extremely unnatural. And so what he would do is he would live with he would just talk with his friends, be a chill fucking guy. And I kind of admire that. I think he was happy back in the day. And I think he would kind of beat me in a 1v1. So respect. Respect. Next comes Martin Heidegger. Martin Heidegger was based. If you read about his life throughout the years of 1933 to 1945, he was in a Nazi party. He was a Nazi party member. Yes, yes. But aside from politics, what the nice thing he has done is that he has created concept of Dasein, of being and time, which I don't still unfortunately understand completely, so I'm not gonna go through details. I'm just gonna say that visually, of course, I mock him, as I mock almost, I think, every philosopher on this list except maybe Albert Camus. But still, he's some I'd say he's like Look, look. Maybe I'll put him here. Yeah. Next comes Immanuel Kant. I really don't understand Kant. What I'm gonna tell you is an anecdote from my life. So once I've talked to a guy who is studying philosophy, but like in a really professional way. And so he would study Kant in a second year of his study. Let's say it like that. Second term. And so what he would tell me is that when they start studying this guy and his critique of pure reason, people around him, his classmates, sorts, they would bang their head against the table, they would cry, and they would altogether abandon the study of philosophy just because of this, which is crazy. I really, I don't want to try to yet understand Kant because I don't think I will understand him. Visually, I mock him, but he's hardly mockable, guys. It's crazy. Next comes Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Visually, again, I don't think I mock him, so he's hardly mockable for now. But he created the concept of private property in the feudal Europe, guys. In the feudal Europe, even though he was living in Geneva, um, the concept was crazy back in the day. And also, he created this idea of social contract, which has influenced Western Europe for a revolution, from feudalism, from monarchy, etc., etc. So for that, for just influencing people to this extent, I'd say he's hardly mockable. But if you look at other photos of his, I mock him, visually. And I would beat him, I would destroy him in a 1v1. Next comes Leibniz. Leibniz is a very interesting case because I'm just gonna read to you what I've wrote about him because his philosophy is such an interesting cause. So basically, he has established a very important concept in philosophy which we still operate and use today, and that is the principle of sufficient reason. And it means that for everything, that everything has a reason and can be explained, which is crazy and which is impressive. And we still use it. So just for that, I'd say he's semi-mockable, but like just after Martin Heidegger. Next comes Plato. Plato, he would destroy me in a fight. He's basically Plato in ancient Greek meant wide of shoulders. So just from this, he was destroying everyone in wrestling. Uh, Unmockable chads, I say. These three guys. I'm not even gonna go in details. He's got so much base stuff. Maybe I'll even do another talkative video in such a like this matter concerning Plato because he's a very interesting cause, guys. So next comes Saint Augustin. This guy, incredible. He's the first person ever to create a genre of autobiography. So basically, I have his book called Confessions, which is absolutely to read, I think, to every person who started studying philosophy recently. It's a masterpiece. And so basically, in this book, it's his most important book, first of all. So he's the first guy to speculate based on his life, how and to what extent did he come to such or that thought. So, for example, at the beginning of his life, he was already raised in a religious family. Then he would go away from it to Manichaeans. I'm not sure how to pronounce their fucking name in English. This was this religion, blah blah blah. And so then he would abandon them. Then he would go to university. He would preach some science, some not even linguistics, some I don't know stuff like that. And then he would come to God and to Christian values. And he's the first guy to analyze philosophy like that based on his life. It is impressive. I think I'd say he's even unmockable because he's a way better person than me, and probably even than I'll ever be. So yeah. Next comes Thomas Aquinas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that he's the first kind of guy to reflect and to try to prove the existence of God, which in itself, nice try, as we say. still it is highly criticized his five provings, his five reasons for existence of God. In some ways he comes in some points very quickly, doesn't explain enough. Maybe I'll explain this in details sometime after. I'm not sure. Maybe one day or day one. Just based on looks, I'd say he's easily mockable. Yeah. So next comes Pythagoras. So just to be clear, this guy invented the basics of geometrics in itself, the Pythagoras theorem, based as fuck already, just respect. And so thanks to this theorem, kind of, he had a cult that was basically, well, they were religious towards geometry, which in itself Pythagoras respect, man. And I think he would destroy me in a 1v1. Even there are some rumors too that he was doing a lot of gymnastics. He was very athletic, so I think he destroyed me. But I'm not sure if he is more mogger than Saint Augustin or not. I'd say not. And so to conclude, the final philosopher, this time it's a philosopher, our modern philosopher Clavicular, because he was recently mocked by an Fred leader, I'd say that he has lost a lot of aura. His philosophy in itself is looksmaxing. I'm not a big fan, to be honest, of looksmaxing. Even though I look like someone who kind of follows it religiously, I'm really not a fan of this idea that some person is way better than the other just because of the way they look. For the most part, it doesn't really explain a lot of things, even though, of course, truth is somewhere in the middle in this case. Of course, you will be way more valued, or just a bit more valued even in a society, if you are good looking. But it's just the simple truth, it is just in human nature. To this, you do not really need a philosophy that is even bringing down people who are uglier than you. This I find horrible in itself. I find this idea that having hate in your heart very destructive even for you yourself. And so to really follow looksmaxing, you'll need to hate yourself. So in order kind of to change this way. Plus, this guy Clavicular, he doesn't really do anything in his life. He's just semi-good looking, if you wish, even. He's had, or he's gonna have multiple operations to change his physical appearance, which I find more dystopian than everything. Like, this guy hates himself so much that he wants to conform to society even to this extent. Plus, he was doing drugs, he was doing all kind of things, just to appeal to some foids. Foids, man, fucking foids. Even though he mocks me, I wouldn't say to this extent. I thank you all guys for listening, and I hope you had a great time as much as I did. Goodbye, and maybe I'll see you next time.